All right, Akim, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Makakwadash. Double honors the apostles and elders for millstone for teaching us his truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Aqua that may listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Raquai, back in here with another quick and Lord's will as always, an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I just wanted to go through this topic here. I had come up with this topic a little while back, but I thought this time would be appropriate considering, at our camp a couple of days ago, we had a couple of so-called Africans, giving the brothers some trouble, right? They were just behaving very strange. And from the outside perspective, if Jake were to see that, they would probably be wondering why did the brothers behave that way, right? Because, and going back into the title of the lesson here, it says, not all skin folk is kinfolk, right? Because a lot of the so-called Africans, majority of them, we share a similar pigmentation, we share a similar skin color. But unbeknownst to Jake's understanding, they don't understand that the Lord made a division, right? Going back to the sons of Noah, right? So that's something I want to get into quickly today. And, their descendants also had darker skin. Even the Japhites also had darker skin. When you go into like the history of the Etruscans and so on and so forth, right? These people were melanated, but it doesn't mean, just because you're melanated doesn't mean you're the same people. And Jake has taken essentially Esau's pseudoscience, right? And think that, everybody that they might come into contact with, or predominantly as well, the Jakes that come, that are situated, for example, in like western parts of Africa, or even in the Caribbean, or even here in America, their understanding is is faulty. That's why the scriptures describe gross darkness to people, right? And the people are under gross darkness, right? Because not all these people that you might be surrounded with are still your people, right? The Lord essentially separated these different nations, right? So, because I made the word separation, I'm going to start off. Just forgive me, I'm having a bit of a cough at the moment, but I still sincerely pray that this lesson is edifying. So since I mentioned the word separation, okay, this is Deuteronomy 32 verse 8, and it says, when the Most High Yahweh divided the nations and their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. The Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. The Lord separated the nations. We went back to Noah's sons. So you had Shem, you had Ham, and then you had Japheth, right? So we're particularly focusing on Ham today, as well as you Israelites, because you Israelites are descendants of Shem, that all the way down to Abraham's father Terah, then Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, right? Right, there is a separation between these people, right? So, and the next one I just wanted to grab, right? Just bear with me. Okay, so Genesis 10 verse 1. And it says, now these are the generations of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were the sons born after the flood. Right, so let me just jump down to the descendants of Ham. So this is verse 6. And the sons of Ham, it says Cush, it says Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Right, so, and the sons of Cush, Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, Sapteka, and the sons of Rama, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begat Nimrod, and he began to be mighty one on the earth, right? So when you hear about Nimrod and you hear about the apostles and brothers talk about Nimrod, he was a descendant of Cush. He was a Hamite, like who you would call your so-called Ethiopian people today, right? So these people, the original Egyptians, not those people dwelling in modern day Egypt, right? Because eventually you had the Alexander Great, one of his generals told me he had jurisdiction over that Egypt during the Greek Empire, and then eventually you had the Arabs come in, later on after like sometime, I think it was during the Crusades, if I'm not mistaken, right? So a lot of their people, a lot of our people have done a lot of shuffling and moving around, right? Those people primarily in Egypt today are not the original Egyptians, right? You could probably have a sprinkling of them there, right? But most of those people today there are Arabs, right? So, okay, so let me get, so the book I have in my hand here is the Zondarvan Bible Dictionary. This is, quite common. Let me just want to get the definition for the son named Ham. Just bear with me on this. Okay, so this is the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, and this is the son named Ham, and it says that the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to survive, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. So it says here, but the Egyptians, so just what I read in Genesis 10, it says the Ethiopians, your Cushites, your Libyans, and your Canaanites, right? Those are predominantly your people that you read about that are being faced with, like when David faced a lot of those Canaanites and Philistines and so on and so forth, right? Those are the people that you read about during the time of King Saul and King David, right? And those different ites that you also read about in the time of Judges, right? That the Lord did not want our minds to be corrupted with their ways, right? Because Jake is very, very simple, right? And they take on these customs. They take on the customs of the heathen. And in Jeremiah, in the 10th chapter, it says, don't learn the ways of the heathen. So it says, when his indecency when his father lay drunken brought upon a curse upon Canaan, right? Hold on. I think there's a little bit more here. It says, the descendants of Ham, and then it gives the scriptures, and then it said in these passages, Ham is used as other name for Egypt as representing the Ham's principal descendants, right? So his principal descendants were in the land of Africa, right? And before we went into the land, right? Because that's as a matter of fact, let me get that. Those different ites. This is Deuteronomy 7:1, and it says, when the Lord Yahweh, thy power shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, thou hast cast out in many nations before thee. And it says the Hittites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Canaanites, like just what we read in the in the dictionary. And it says, and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. When the Lord Yahweh, thy power, shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them, utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show thy mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them, thy daughter or thou shalt give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. Verse 4, and it says, here's the point I was just making. It says, for they will turn away your son from following me. And this is exactly what happened when you read during the time of Judges, right? Their mistake, Jake's mistake was not getting rid of them. Jake's mistake was essentially they made them tributes. And when you go, as a matter of fact, I'll get a little bit of it so you can understand what it is I'm saying. So it says, for they will turn away thy son from following me, and they may serve other gods, right? Because Jake is very simple, right? And the scriptures say, train up a child in the way that they should go. And when he's old, he doesn't depart from it, right? So, giving your child the instructions of how to actually please the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, so you don't go after these ways of Baal or Baalim or Baphomet or all these different idols, so to speak, right? So will the anger of the Lord Yahweh will be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. It says, but thus shall ye deal with them, ye shall destroy their altars, break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire, right? So because this is why in verse 6, for thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy power. The Lord thy power chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So this is why the Lord wanted us to do this, because these works, these people's vibration is essentially a snare unto us, right? That's why we were supposed to, get rid of them, get rid of their altars, get rid of their idols, get rid of their, just get rid of them as a whole, clean them out, because, I want you to be, we're supposed to be a noble find. We're supposed to be a holy people. We're not supposed to be learning these different ways, right? These different odious works. As a matter of fact, let me get that word. Just bear with me on this. Okay, so it goes back to the Latin odium, meaning hatred. Bear with me on this. Odious, it says hateful, deserving of hatred, hated, regarded as aversion or repugnance. It says hateful, offensive, unpleasant. Okay, so it's something that is very strongly detested, essentially, right? Okay, this is I'll read verse 6 again, and it says, for thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy power. The Lord thy power hath chosen thee to be a special people above it, unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. And the Lord Yahweh did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because you were few in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people. But because the Lord loved you, and sworn he would keep an oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, hath the Lord Yahweh brought to you out of the mighty land, and redeemed you out of the house of the bondmen, and out of the hand of Pharaoh the king of Egypt, right? So this is why the Lord has a strong, has a bond between us, and that bond is signified in that covenant, right? And that's what makes us above these other nations, not beside them, not equal to them, not, not all this jibber jabber, we're above these other people, right? But Jake doesn't behave as such because they're following these different these different works of the heathen, right? So, so this is specifically, in regards to a bloodline, and Jake doesn't understand the difference between a citizenship and a bloodline, right? The citizen, you can be a citizen, for example, of America. However, you are not, quote unquote, American is not a bloodline. Canada is not a bloodline. Britain is not a bloodline. These are different citizenships, right? Who do your forefathers go back to is what's more important, right? Because the Lord made a covenant with a special people, and those people are only slotted for redemption and repentance as well as salvation, right? And the chosen within that chosen is going to be given salvation, right? So, because I wanted to bring out this quick point as well. Psalms, just bear with me. Okay, Psalms 106, verse 34. And it says, they did not destroy the nations concerning the whom the Lord had commanded them. And it says, but they were Salakia, one second. But were mingled among the heathen, and learned their works, and served unto their idols, which were a snare unto them. Yea, they sacrificed their sons and their daughters unto devils, and they shed innocent blood, even the blood of their sons and their daughters, whom they sacrificed unto the idols of Canaan. Right? So our people learned through the works of these different other nations, especially these so-called, what you call so-called African nations today, right? We're not Africans, we are Israelites, right? And the land was polluted with blood. This is a good precept, but there was another one I was thinking of. One second. Okay, this is Psalms 105, verse 23, and it says, Israel also came into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham, right? Because after, that destruction of that second temple, you had a bunch of our people fleeing into the interiors of Africa, right? And essentially what happened is we were fleeing refuge, right? And then, we settled in primarily on the western coast of Africa, but pursuant to the curses as well, in Deuteronomy 28, you'll be mingled amongst, we'll be scattered all over the world, right? But, our people don't understand the difference, that there is a difference, and not everybody, for example, you might share skin color with a lot of quote unquote native Africans, natural Hamites, but it doesn't mean you're the same people. You are different, descendants. You are different people, right? You might share skin color, and that's about it. But Jake is very essentially carnal minded. Your nationality is determined by the bloodline. This is not a skin color thing, right? This is a bloodline. Really specifically about the nation of Israel only, right? He has not dealt so with any other nation, right? So let me just get 2 Corinthians. Okay, 2 Corinthians 11 and 22, and it says, are they Hebrews? This is Paul speaking. So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. And are they the seed of Abraham? So am I, right? So Paul is identifying himself as somebody who is a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and he's of the tribe of Benjamin, pursuant to Romans 11, right? So, we were scattered, all over, we're scattered all over the world, and at this point, we can come looking like the other nations, right? Even the natural and so-called Africans, right? So not everybody is the typical dark-skinned Israelite. That's not going to happen, right? We've been mingled amongst the other nations, and essentially we took on their wives and took on their customs, so to speak, right? Kind of like when, for example, a lot of Israelites come and they move away from the Caribbean and they settle here in America, and then they start learning the ways of, for example, like Halloween. Like Halloween is not something we celebrate in the Caribbean, right? And their children, they never knew about Halloween, but then they go to school, and then the children growing up, they see other children participate in Halloween, and then essentially their parents get them into it, right? Because they don't want to essentially be left out, because that is a custom of American culture today, right? And then they start dressing them up and doing all this demonic behavior and all this kinds of stuff. It's the same thing then, and it's the same thing now. Jake is just doing the exact same thing. Especially, and then another thing is they take on the customs of other nations, just like back then, and they're doing the same thing now, right? They implement it, and then they start practicing the customs of that nation's way they settle, right? They don't go back to their heritage, right? Jake discontinued from their heritage, right? So their children grow up, and their children, and then their children essentially have children, and then they start grooming them and into the customs of, for example, Halloween and Christmas and Easter and all this kinds of stuff, of the customs of that land that they're settled in, right? Jake doesn't know who they are. The scriptures say that an ox knoweth his master. Let me get it. Okay, Isaiah 1 and 3, and it says, an ox knoweth his owner, and an ass his master's crib, but Israel do not know, my people doth not consider, right? They don't consider, the things that are happening to them. They don't consider what is their heritage. They don't honestly care, right? They live a very comfortable life, especially here in America, and the countries like Europe and so on and so forth. And they don't consider, their heritage with their forefathers. They don't go back into the ways and understanding and inquiring the ways of their forefathers, right? So that's really the point I kind of wanted to hit. Oh, I forgot to read Judges. Just give me 1 second. Let me just... There's a point I made. Let me just see if I can find the account real quick. Okay, this is Judges 2 and 10. And it says... Wait, 1 second. Okay, I'll start at verse 10, and it says, and also all that generation were gathered unto their fathers, and there arose another generation after them, which knew not the Lord, and nor yet the works which he had done for Israel. So they didn't know about the miracles. They didn't know about, the time of, when they came out of Egypt. They didn't know about those things the Lord had did, right? They didn't. Essentially, what and that breeds disrespect, because when Jake does not, essentially know about the things someone has done for them, it breeds a sentiment of disrespect, lack of looking back, essentially, right? It says, which knew not the Lord, nor yet their works which he had done for Israel. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord Yahweh, and served Baalim, and they forsook the Lord power of their fathers, which brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other gods out of the people that were around about them. and bowed themselves unto them and provoked the Lord to anger, right? So instead of, getting rid of their altars and get rid of them as a whole, they made them tributes. And a tribute essentially is kind of like, where we are today. We have, we pay tribute to, the Caesars. Essentially, you're kind of like in subjection to a higher power. And Jake was in, a position of power and made them tributes, right? But, essentially they didn't destroy them and destroy, their altars and so on and so forth. And they began to learn the ways of these different idols. And Jake essentially was just going into captivity after captivity after captivity. And right. And this is why, Paul says in the New Testament in Corinthians that, we're supposed to be a chaste virgin, right? We're not supposed to be mingling with these other gods, and their vibration and inquiring of what they do and so on and so forth, right? So anyways, I want to end it off here, but I sincerely pray that this lesson was edifying. I'd just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Until next time, I say Shalom.